You step up to the tee. Smooth takeaway, good tempo. Then the ball climbs, hangs for a second, and peels hard to the right, straight into the trees. Again. If that is the shot that follows you around every course you play, stay with me. Because here is the truth I wish somebody had told me 20 years sooner. Your slice has almost nothing to do with your swing. It comes from one thing your hands are doing at the moment of impact, and one small move fixes it for good. I spent 2 decades and hundreds of dollars fighting this before an old range pro showed me the move in about 90 seconds. The deepest part of what I found traces all the way back to a book from 1937, written by a one-legged teacher in New York, whose name has almost disappeared. And this works whether you are 30 or 70, with the very same clubs already sitting in your bag. I still remember standing on a cold October driving range, watching every single ball in my bucket bend to the right, wondering what on earth was wrong with me. So let me start with the thing that shook me first, because it flips everything you have probably been told. Your slice is not a swing problem, it is a club face problem. And once you understand that, you will never look at your bad shots the same way again. For years, I believed my slice came from a bad swing path. I thought I was swinging over the top, chopping across the ball, throwing my hands out. So I took lessons about my path. I bought videos about my path. I stood in front of a mirror trying to swing more from the inside. And you know what happened? I still sliced it. Sometimes worse, because now I was thinking about 8 things at once. Then I learned something that modern launch monitors have proven beyond any argument. When the club meets the ball, the direction the ball starts and the way it curves is decided mostly by where the club face is pointing. Not the swing, the face. Studies using tracking technology have shown that the club face controls roughly 85% of where that ball begins its flight. The path matters, but it is the smaller partner in the deal. Here is what that means in plain English. A slice happens when the face of your club is open, pointing to the right, relative to the direction your club is traveling at impact. That difference between where the face points and where the club is moving puts sideways spin on the ball. That spin is what makes it curve away from you and die in the woods. It is not bad luck. It is not your tempo. It is a face hanging open a few degrees at the exact wrong moment. Now this is not new knowledge. This is old knowledge that got buried under complication. Go back to the turn of the last century, to a man named Harry Vardon. Vardon was the greatest golfer of his era. He won the Open Championship 6 times, a record that still stands to this day. And around 1900, he made famous a way of holding the club that we now call the Vardon grip, the overlapping grip that most golfers use without even knowing his name. He wrote about it in his book The Complete Golfer, published in 1905. Why did Vardon fuss so much about the grip? Because he understood, more than 100 years ago, something that most weekend golfers never get told. The hands are the only part of your body that touch the club. They are the steering wheel. If the hands are on wrong, the face will hang open, and no amount of fancy body movement will save you. He was fixing the face at the source. So the first thing I want you to do, before you touch anything else, is look down at your grip the next time you hold a club. Take your normal hold and look at your top hand, the left hand for a right-handed golfer. How many knuckles can you see? If you look down and you can only see one knuckle, or none at all, I can almost promise you that is where your slice is being born. That single detail is the crack in the foundation. Understanding that the face is the villain, not the swing, was the first weight off my shoulders. But it left me with a much bigger question, and it made me a little angry the more I thought about it. If the fix is really this simple, and men knew it 100 years ago, then why has nobody told me? Why did I waste 20 years and all that money? Therefore, let me tell you where all that money actually went, because this is the part that made my blood boil. Think about what a slicer does. A slicer is the most profitable customer in all of golf. I know because I was that customer for a very long time. When you slice the ball and nobody teaches you the real cause, you go looking for the fix in a store. And the golf industry has built an entire economy around selling you that fix, over and over, without ever curing you. Walk into any golf shop and you will find drivers marketed as anti-slice. They call them draw bias, or offset, or game improvement. What these clubs actually do is tilt the weighting so the face closes a little on its own, masking your problem for a few rounds. A new driver like that can run you $500, $600, even $700, and the average slicer does not buy one and stop. He buys a new one every year or two, always chasing the club that will finally straighten him out. I personally owned 4 drivers in 6 years. Do the math on that. That is well over $2,000 spent hiding a problem that a free grip change would have solved. Then there are the training aids, the straps, the armbands, the swing plane trainers, the alignment sticks, the impact bags, the little gadgets that clip onto your club. I had a drawer full of them. Every one promised to fix the slice. Every one cost $20, $40, $60. And every one focused on the swing, on the path, on the body, on everything except the one place the problem actually lives, which is your hands on the grip. Here is why that happens, and it is not really a conspiracy so much as a habit that pays too well to break. Somewhere over the last several decades, golf instruction got obsessed with the swing as a full-body machine. It became about positions, angles, planes, and slow-motion video. All of that is real, and some of it is useful for advanced players. But for the everyday golfer, it buried the simple truth under a mountain of complexity, and complexity sells. Complexity means you need more lessons, more gadgets, more clubs. A man who fixes his own slice in his living room for free is not a customer anymore. Compare that to how the old teachers thought. Back in 1946, an Englishman named Percy Boomer wrote a book called On Learning Golf. Boomer taught golf by feel. He talked about what the swing should feel like, not 100 technical positions to hit. He wanted his students to own the motion in their own bodies, so they never needed him again. That was the old way. Teach a man to fish. The modern machine would rather rent you the fishing rod forever. So the villain here is not one evil person. It is a whole system that quietly profits every day you keep slicing and keep buying. And the cost of not knowing is not just the money, it is the years. It is standing on that first tee with your buddies, watching, feeling your stomach knot up because you just know, that ball is going right again. That embarrassment has a price too, and I paid it for far too long. But knowing the face is the problem, and knowing why nobody fixed it for me, still did not straighten a single shot. Therefore, let me give you the actual move. This is the 90 seconds that changed my golf. The old pro who finally helped me did not touch my swing. He did not film me. He walked up, looked at my hands, and said 4 words. "You are holding it weak." Not weak like soft, he explained. Weak like turned the wrong way. Here is the move. Take your top hand, the left for a righty, and rotate it clockwise on the grip, away from the target, until you look down and you can clearly see 2, maybe 3 knuckles on the back of that hand. When you do that, the V shape formed by your thumb and forefinger should point up toward your back shoulder, your right shoulder, not straight up at your chin. Then bring your bottom hand on so its palm more or less matches, the V there also pointing back toward that trail shoulder. That is it. That is the strong grip. And the word strong has nothing to do with pressure. In fact, your pressure should stay light, like you are holding a tube of toothpaste with the cap off. Strong just means both hands are rotated slightly away from the target, so that when you swing naturally, the face returns to square instead of hanging open. When I first did this, it felt terrible. I want to be honest with you, because you are going to feel the same thing. It felt wrong. It felt like my hands were turned way too far over. My brain screamed that I was going to hook it into the next county. And that is exactly the point. Your old grip felt normal because you had trained yourself around a fault for years. The correct grip has to feel strange at first, or it is not different enough to work. So I trusted it. I hit 5 balls with that new, uncomfortable grip, bracing for a disaster. And the ball started slightly right and drifted gently back to the center. A baby draw. The first one of my life. I actually stopped and stared at it. 20 years, and the answer was a quarter turn of my hands. Now, here is where I need to speak to something, because I know exactly what some of you are thinking. You are thinking this is fine for a person who can get to a driving range whenever they want, but I do not have that kind of time or money, and I am not about to go pay for a bucket of balls just to practice holding a club. I hear you, and here is the good news. This is the one piece of golf you can fix completely inside your own home, for nothing, without a single golf ball. Think about all those years you stood over the ball, hands frozen, steering a swing you were never meant to steer, watching another drive leak into the trees. That fight ends when you stop guessing and start working from the fundamentals in order. That is exactly what the complete golf fix system was built to give you. It walks you through the 15-second grip audit that changes your ball flight immediately, the setup adjustments tour players use that amateurs never hear, and the alignment sequence done in the correct order, finally. It is the full, permanent version of the fix you just felt with a broom and a towel, laid out as a 6-week structured protocol for golfers who are done guessing. And you can test its promise for free tonight, right in your living room. Take your normal hold, look down and count your knuckles, just like these books tell you, and watch whether 1 or 2 knuckles matches the shot you keep hitting. The fastest way to get the books is to scan the QR code right there on your screen, or go to the link in the description or the pinned comment. Your slice has been quietly bleeding distance off every drive for years, and that cost is running whether you fix it today or next spring. Speaking of getting your hands to stop fighting the club, let me tell you what happened the moment I finally trusted this. You do not need clubs. You do not need a range. You do not need lessons. Grab a broom from your closet. Grab an umbrella, or a yardstick, or even the handle of a rake. Anything with a shaft you can hold in 2 hands. Then, right there in your living room, put your new strong grip on it. Look down. Count your knuckles. 2 or 3 showing. V pointing to your back shoulder. Light pressure. Now just hold it for 30 seconds and let your hands memorize how it feels. Do that a few times a day. Set the grip, break it, set it again. Make slow, easy half swings if you have the ceiling for it, feeling your forearms turn. What you are doing is teaching your hands a brand new home so that by the time you get to a real course, the grip feels automatic instead of foreign. I did this every evening for 2 weeks during the winter while the television was on. It cost me nothing, not $1. And when spring came, that strange new grip already felt like mine. That is the whole beauty of this. The most powerful fix in golf is also the cheapest, and it happens off the course, not on it. The people selling you $600 drivers really do not want you to know that a broom handle and 2 weeks of your living room can do more than their whole catalog. But even with the perfect grip, I found there was still one more piece missing. Because a grip only works if your hands are allowed to do their job through the ball. And most slicers, myself included, do something that quietly cancels out even a good grip. Therefore, let me show you the second half of the move. The trouble is that a lifelong slicer learns to steer. When you have hit the ball right for years, your body starts trying to hold the face open to keep from doing what it fears. You tense your arms. You hang on for dear life through impact. You block the release. And when you do that, even a strong grip cannot rotate the face closed in time. You have handcuffed your own hands. The fix is to let the club release. And here is the feeling that finally taught me what release means. Picture the toe of the club, the very end of the club head, and the heel, the part nearest the shaft. Through impact, the toe needs to pass the heel. The club head rolls over, like closing a door. A good way to feel it is to think about your knuckles. Coming into the ball, feel the knuckles of your top hand rotate down toward the ground, as if you were turning your palm face down just after you strike. Some old teachers called it turning the doorknob. I practiced this with the broom in my living room too, swinging slowly and watching my hands roll over past where the ball would be. Toe passing heel, knuckles turning down. When I finally took it to the range and combined it with the strong grip, the ball did not just stop slicing. It started to actually turn over, right to left, with a little run at the end. I was getting 15-20 extra yards for free, because a slice is not only crooked, it bleeds distance. All that sideways spin was energy leaking off the ball instead of driving it forward. That was the moment I realized my slice had been costing me two ways at once. It cost me accuracy, sure, but it had also been quietly robbing me of distance on every drive for 20 years. Every slicer is playing shorter than he has to, and nobody tells him that either. So now I had the grip and I had the release, and they worked. But there was still a nagging problem. On the course, under pressure, when it counted, my hands would sometimes freeze up all over again. The old steering instinct would sneak back. I needed something that made a free release happen by itself, without me thinking about it. And that is where I stumbled onto the real secret, the one I promised you at the very beginning. This is the part almost nobody knows anymore. Back in 1937, a man named Ernest Jones published a small book called Swing the Clubhead. Jones was an Englishman, a fine young professional golfer, until the First World War. In 1916, on the battlefield, he lost his right leg below the knee. Now think about that. A golfer with one leg. By every rule of the game, his career should have been over. Instead, not long after, balancing on his remaining leg, he went out and shot in the 70s, on one leg. And that impossible round taught him the single most important lesson in golf. A lesson that a slicer needs more than anyone. If a man with one leg can shoot a good score, then the golf swing is not about brute force from the body and the legs. It is about swinging the club head. The hands and the free swinging club are the engine. Everything else just supports it. Jones moved to America and became one of the most sought-after teachers in the country, giving lessons in New York for decades. And he had one demonstration that cut straight to the heart of the slice, a demonstration you can copy this very weekend with things already lying around your house. He would take a pocket knife, a small folding jackknife, and tie it to the corner of a handkerchief. Then he would hold the free end of the handkerchief and swing the weighted end back and forth. Because the cloth is limp, you cannot force it, you cannot steer it, you cannot muscle it. The only way to make that little weight swing in a smooth, full arc is to let it swing, feeling the weight at the very end pull the cloth tight. The moment you try to control it with force, the whole thing collapses and goes crooked. That is the entire secret, and it is why the strong grip and the release finally locked in for me. You cannot consciously square the club face at impact. It happens far too fast. What you can do is set your hands correctly with the grip, and then swing the club head freely, so that its own momentum, the weight at the end, rolls the face closed all on its own. The slice is a disease of trying too hard, of steering a weight you were meant to let swing. Jones proved it with a handkerchief and a penknife almost 90 years ago. Here is exactly how to use it this weekend, and it costs you nothing. Find a weight and a length of cloth or cord. A shoelace with a key tied to the end works. A hand towel tied in a knot works. A head cover on the end of a rope works. Hold the light end, let the weight hang, and swing it back and forth like a slow pendulum, back and through, back and through. Feel how you have to wait for the weight. Feel how the weight itself wants to lead, to swing out and turn over at the bottom. Do that 50 times. Then pick up your club with your new strong grip and make the very same free, unforced swing, letting the club head be the weight on the end of the towel. When I did this, something clicked that no lesson and no gadget ever gave me. My hands stopped fighting the club. I let it swing. The face squared itself, and the slice that had haunted me for 20 years, the shot that made me dread the first tee, simply stopped showing up. Not managed, not hidden by an expensive driver. Gone. That is the hero's journey of this whole thing, when you step back and look at it. The knowledge was there all along. Varden had the grip in 1905. Jones had the swing in 1937. Boomer had the feel in 1946. These men knew how to cure a slice a lifetime ago. Then the knowledge got buried under decades of complicated instruction and shiny things to buy, until an ordinary golfer like me could spend 20 years and thousands of dollars and never once hear it. But it was never truly lost. A few old books kept it alive on dusty shelves, and now it is sitting right here in your hands. So let me put the whole move back together for you, simply the way I wish someone had handed it to me on that cold October range. Turn your top hand until you see 2 or 3 knuckles, with the V pointing to your back shoulder. Keep your grip pressure soft. Let the toe of the club pass the heel through impact, knuckles rolling down like turning a doorknob. And above all, do not steer it. Swing the club head like that weight on the end of the handkerchief and let its own momentum square the face. Practice the grip with a broom in your living room and the release with a towel and a weight in your backyard. None of it costs a dime. Here is what I really want you to feel walking away from this. That slice was never a flaw in you. You were never a bad golfer. You were just a good customer, kept in the dark on purpose, sold the fix over and over so you would never actually find it. And now you have taken it back. You strike me as the kind of person who is tired of paying again and again for something plain common sense used to handle for free. The kind who would rather understand the real cause than rent a temporary cover-up. That instinct is exactly right, and it is exactly what these old teachers were counting on in the people who found their books. Now I want to hear from you, and I mean this. Think back over your golfing life and tell me, how much money do you figure you have spent chasing your slice? The drivers, the lessons, the gadgets in the drawer. Add it up and put that number down in the comments right now, because I have a feeling the total is going to shock every single person reading it, including you. And tell me one more thing while you are there. When you look down at your grip today, how many knuckles can you see? Type the number. I read them. If you got real value out of this, then you belong with the rest of us here. A growing group of people who are done being sold the same problem twice and are digging up the practical knowledge that actually works and actually lasts. Subscribe and stand with us, because the next thing I am bringing you is just as buried. It is a way to add 20 yards to your drives, using nothing but a change in how you set your feet at address. A trick I found in an instruction manual older than most of the clubs being sold today. You do not want to miss where that one leads. This video showed you why the face is the villain. Inside the practical wisdom circle, I pick up right where we stopped and walk you through the full grip and face fix. If something isn't clicking, ask me directly, a real person. Me answers you myself. And you won't be doing this alone. Just point your phone's camera at the code on the screen. It takes a minute and you can cancel any time. Now that your slice is behind you, let's get that driver working for you too. I'll show you one simple move that adds real distance off the tee. It's starting right here. Stay with me.